Lesson 2 for October 5 to 11, Nehemiah, read by Dr. Percy Harold. Thursday, October 10, Nehemiah prepares for his task. No question, the Lord had called Nehemiah to this task and would provide all that he would need. Armed with the knowledge of God's promises and the certainty of the call by God, Nehemiah proceeded. But he moved ahead carefully and prayerfully. In other words, even though he knew God was with him, this knowledge didn't keep him basically from thinking through what he would do. Question, read Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 11 through 20. What does Nehemiah do to prepare for the project of rebuilding the wall? Nehemiah 2, beginning at verse 11. So I came to Jerusalem and was there 3 days. Then I arose in the night, I and a few men with me. I told no one what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem, nor was there any animal with me, except the one on which I rode. And I went out by night through the valley gate to the serpent wall and the refuse gate, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and its gates, which were burned with fire. Then I went on to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but there was no room for the animal under me to pass. So I went up in the night by the valley and viewed the wall. Then I turned back and entered by the valley gate, and so returned. And the officials did not know where I had gone or what I had done. I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, the officials, or the others who did the work. Then I said to them, You see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lies waste, and its gates are burned with fire. Come and let us build the wall at Jerusalem, that we may no longer be a reproach. And I told them of the hand of my God, which had been good upon me, and also of the king's words that he had spoken to me. So they said, Let us rise up and build. Then they set their hands to do this good work. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they laughed at us and despised us, and said, What is this thing that you are doing? Will you rebel against the king? So I answered them and said to them, The God of heaven himself will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build. But you have no heritage or right or memorial in Jerusalem. Leadership Lessons. Lesson 1. Nehemiah does not tell anyone what the plans are that God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem, as we read in verse 12. Not only does he not tell the enemy, but he keeps it from the Jewish leaders as well. He is on a scouting mission to figure out what needs to be done. Lesson 2. Before presenting anything, Nehemiah does his homework and plans out all the work that will be required. Lesson 3. When he does speak of the task, Nehemiah first outlines what God has done so far to lead this expedition, and that he adds the words of the king. He encourages before he asks for commitment. It is nothing short of a miracle that the Jews respond so favourably and decide to build, despite the resistance that will come. God had prepared not only the king through Nehemiah's prayers and fasting, but also the Jewish people, so that they respond boldly and courageously. Question, read Nehemiah 2, 19 and 20. What do these verses tell us about Nehemiah's faith? How might texts such as Deuteronomy 7, 9, Psalm 23, 1-6, and Numbers 23, 19 have helped Nehemiah? Nehemiah 2, beginning at verse 19 again. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they laughed at us and despised us, and said, What is this thing that you are doing? Will you rebel against the king? So I answered them and said to them, The God of heaven himself will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build. So you have no heritage or right or memorial in Jerusalem. And then Deuteronomy 7, verse 9, Therefore know that the Lord your God, he is God, the faithful God, who keeps covenant and mercy for 1,000 generations with those who love him and keep his commandments. And Psalm 23 verses 1 through 6. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And Numbers 23 verse 19. God is not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should repent. Has he said, and will he not do? Or has he spoken, and will he not make it good? Our conversations demonstrate who we are and what we truly believe. Nehemiah tends to speak uplifting words. He is not afraid to include God in all that he says and to glorify him as well, even when people jeer and laugh at him. Even though Nehemiah knows the contempt the enemies feel toward them, he doesn't mince words or leave God out of the conversation. Like Joseph in Egypt many years earlier, Nehemiah is not afraid to promote his God among people who do not believe in him. This week's lesson has been read by Dr. Percy Harold from Queensland, Australia. It is brought to you by Hope Channel, the Sabbath School Department, and through the services of Christian Services for the Blind. A video of this podcast also occurs on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.